We ask you, Father, that as we assemble here today, that we will honor you in our words, our deeds, and even our thoughts. Father, I pray for unity where that's possible, and where it may not be possible, I thank you for civility. I lift up the leadership in the House, our Speaker and our Minority Leader, and I pray a special covering over them. Now, Father, as we continue on, we don't want to fail to give you praise and honor and glory for all that you're doing in our lives. In Jesus' name we pray. And everybody said, Amen.
Members and guests will please remain standing as we are led in the Pledge of Allegiance today by the gentleman from the 62nd, Delegate Bibby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please join with me and stand in pledging allegiance to the most exceptional nation in the world. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Members and guests may be seated. Reading of the Journal.
Journal of the House of Delegates, Charleston, Tuesday, February 5th, 2019.
Gentleman 63rd, Douglas Hardy.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of the Journal be dispensed with and that the approval has been read.
Gentleman 63rd, ask unanimous consent that further reading of the Journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read. Is there objection? Chair hears no objection. So ordered. Introduction to guests. Gentleman 16th, Delegate Mant.
Good morning, everybody. I have a very special guest with me today. I met her 2 weeks ago. She came in from Milton today. This is Gracie Black. This is what I call the perks of having this position. To meet people that are loving and compassionate, and that with just a big hug they can make your day. So could everybody please stand and make Gracie feel welcome? Thank you.
Gentleman the 54th, Delegate Hott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Delegate Sponogle and myself, we are pleased to have some educators all the way from Grant County who I'd like to stand and allow me to introduce them. Jody Roger Cullors, Angela Hedrick, Brittany Porter, Lucinda Smith, and Heather White. May the House make them feel welcome.
Lady from the 57th, Delegate Rowan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of all the delegates from Mineral County, it is indeed a pleasure to introduce A.J. Root. He's the Mineral County Health Department Administrator, and he's also the President of the West Virginia Association of Health. So would the House please give him a wide and wonderful West Virginia welcome.
Gentleman 28th, Delegate Pack.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Delegate Cooper and myself, we have 2 pages with us today, Mr. Speaker. They're here all the way from Peterstown Middle School in Monroe County. We have Kennison Moore and Matthew Stutz. If they would please rise and the House make them welcome.
Gentleman the 45th, Delegate Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I have some members in the gallery from Upshur County Schools. If they'd please stand, I have Gabby Rhodes, Ann Osborne, Kelly Kaner, Kristen Hines, Brent Kimball, and Brian Allman. Please make them feel welcome.
Gentleman from the 35th, Delegate Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we have 11 members of the West Virginia Association of Realtors, the 2019 Leadership Academy. They're up in the South Gallery, and if you all wouldn't mind while I introduce each. And if you all would stand as I introduce you. Paul Ashmore, Tara Gerber, Kathy Underwood, Allison Watkins, Peggy White, Janet Amores, Jared Johnson, Jennifer Romeo, Shelley Johns, Sarah Elliott, Miranda Elkins, Wes Harvey, and then my oldest daughter, Heather Nelson. If the members would please make them welcome.
Lady from the 39th, Delegate Malcolm.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the North Gallery, I have a friend, if she'll stand, Kathy Krause, and I'd ask the House to please make her feel welcome.
Gentleman from the 10th, Delegate Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today in the South Gallery, I have a really good friend here today. His name is Harold Stockwell. And Harold, if you'd stand, Harold was voted in 2007 as the Meta-Ohio Valley Teacher of the Year. Please make Harold feel welcome. Thank you. Also in the West Gallery, we have a group of folks from Parkersburg. They represent People First of West Virginia. They're led by another good friend of mine, Doug Hess. If they'd stand, please, and make them feel welcome.
Gentleman from the 11th, Delegate Atkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we have 2 pages from Walton Elementary Middle School. We have my grandson, Tony Wright, and Titus Smith, and they're accompanied by my wife and Titus's father, Matt, in the South Gallery. Would you please make them welcome?
Gentleman 23rd, Delegate Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we have with us some pages and their escorts from Ramage Elementary School. If they would all stand to be recognized, we have Robert Ball, Maya Hill, Braden Markham, Landon Concerta, and on behalf of myself and the distinguished gentleman from the 24th, their escorts. If they would stand in the West Gallery, Jay Hill, Shay, and Rachel Hale, all of them are public educators in Boone County. So if the House would please make them feel welcome.
Gentleman of 36, Delegate Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In our South Gallery today, we have plumbers and pipe fitters from Local 625 representing Kanawha County, and they're accompanied by their business agent, Craig Mosteller, and Charleston Building and Trades business manager, Paul Breedlove. If the House will make them feel welcome.
Lady from the 50th, Delegate Longstreth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we have some guests in the gallery that I would love to introduce on behalf of myself, Delegate Caputo and Delegate Angelucci. They're from the People's First in Marion County and the Marion County Disability Action Center, a great group of people that, you know, we're very close to, and we love having them here. It's our pleasure. If you'd all stand up, and would you all please stand up and give them a welcome today?
Gentleman 24th, Delegate Robinson.
I have one more introduction, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. On behalf of myself and Delegate Caputo and Angelucci, we also have our Director of the Marion County Health Department here, and it's my pleasure to introduce him, Lloyd White. Would you please stand up? Would you please welcome him? Thank you.
Gentleman 24th, Delegate Rodriguero.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Delegate Tomlin and myself, we have some pages from Mann Elementary Student Government. We have Noah Fraser and his dad Greg, Jackson Ellison, his parents Latasha and Jackie. We have Kaylee Laxton and her parents Lisa and Josh. We have Chase Cooper, his mother Mandy, and grandmother Lorraine, and they're accompanied by their sponsors Tony Duba and Tammy Lucas. Would the floor please make them welcome? Thank you.
Gentleman from the 25th, Delegate Painter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the Page program here, I'd like to introduce some folks from the prettiest place in the world. And from Wyoming East High School, we have Miss Carmen Lusk, and we have Miss Mackenzie Justice. They are chaperoned by Miss Stacy Butcher. Thank you. Let's all give them a big house welcome.
Gentleman the 17th, Delegate Rohrbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my privilege today to introduce 3 pages from my old high school, Spring Valley High School, by way of Vincent High School. If they'd stand when I call their name, First is Elin Soderstern, and Elin comes to us as an exchange student all the way from Sweden. Next is Nicola Lorenzi, who comes as an exchange student all the way from Italy. And lastly, from Spring Valley High School, we have Michael Madrigal. If Mike would stand, and if we'd recognize all three of our students. Thank you.
Gentleman, the 55th, Delegate Spinagle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the North Gallery here behind me, all the way down from Hardy County, we have the administrator of the Hardy County Health Department, Mr. Wild Bill Hours. Bill, stand up. Will the House make him welcome?
Gentleman, the 5th, Delegate Pethel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Today I have people here from Wetzel County with People First, and as I call their name, I'd ask they please stand. Lewis Newell, Dustin Conley, Lindsay Fry, Susie Abraham, Charles Roberts, Mickey Mace, Katie Sine, John Brown, and also with them today, Danita Fry. I ask they all stand, and the House please make them welcome. Thank you.
Gentleman, the 50th, Delegate Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have three introductions today, but first I'd like to recognize a former member and maybe the next Republican gubernatorial nominee in the back of the room, Mike Falk. That's from your party, Mr. Speaker. Also, Mr. Speaker, in the South Gallery, we have sheet metal workers representing local union 33. They're from Marion, Harrison, Mon, Taylor, Doddridge, Preston, and Wetzel. They're here today with their business representative, Jim Jackson. I'd ask that they please stand and the House make them welcome. And also, Mr. Speaker, from the Keystone Mountain Lakes Carpenters region representing local union 439, they're here today with their team leader, Luke Begovich, and our good friend and former member, Scotty Brewer. Would you all please stand and let the House make you welcome, please?
Gentleman, the 19th, Doug Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of myself, Delegate Hicks, Delegate Rohrbach, and Delegate Lovejoy, we do have a teacher in the audience. I'm not sure exactly which gallery he's in, but Gary Roboleski, he's a teacher at Spring Valley High School, and he was also, I did my student teaching in his classroom several years ago. So please give him a round of applause. He's in the South Gallery.
Gentleman, the 42nd, Delegate Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Delegate Lavender Bowe, myself, we have a page here today from Eastern Greenbrier Middle School, walking right up the aisle here, Donna Jean Barkley, and she is escorted today by her parents in the South Gallery. If they would stand, please, Travis and Brianna Barkley. Will the House please make them welcome?
Gentleman, the 9th, Delegate Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today in the West Gallery, we have two folks from the Mid-Ohio Valley Health Department. We've got the Executive Director, Eric Walker, and Public Relations Officer, Carrie Brainer. Please make them welcome.
Chair is pleased to have three guests in the West Gallery today. Please make welcome from Clay County, Superintendent of Schools Joe Paxton, his Assistant Jared Fitzwater, and Board President Dave Mullins. Further introductions of guests. If not, reports to standing committees.
Committee on Finance has had under consideration House Bill 2468, Department of Agriculture Capital Improvements Fund. Reports back committee substitute, therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
Report to be received.
Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources has had under consideration House Bill 2438, relating generally to survivor benefits for emergency response providers. Reports the same back with amendment, with the recommendation that it do pass as amended, that it be referred to Committee on Finance.
Report to be received. Bill be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources has had under consideration House Bill 2715 relating to Class Q special hunting permit for disabled persons. Reports the same back with amendment with the recommendation that it do pass as amended, that it be referred to Committee on Judiciary.
Report to be received. Bill be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Committee on Industry and Labor has had under consideration House Bill 2441 removing certain requirements related to wages for construction of public improvements. Reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, that it be referred to Committee on Judiciary.
Report to be received. Bill be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Committee on Industry and Labor has had under consideration House Concurrent Resolution 25 requesting the Joint Committee on Government Finance study the discrepancy between estimates and actual readings of electrical meters. Reports the same back with the recommendation that it be adopted, that it be referred to Committee on Rules.
Report to be received. Resolution be referred to Committee on Rules.
Your Committee on Enrolled Bills has had under consideration Committee substitute for Senate Bill 117 relating to probation eligibility, Senate Bill 119 specifying documents not subject to discovery in certain proceedings, and Senate Bill 272 updating code relating to Commission on Special Investigations. The committee presented to the Governor for his action these bills on February 5th, 2019.
Report to be received.
Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration House Bill 2809 relating to prohibited acts and penalties in the Hatfield-McCoy Recreation Area. Reports back Committee substitute, therefore, with recommendation that the Committee substitute do pass.
Report to be received.
Committee on Pensions and Retirement has had under consideration House Bill 2739 relating to contributions on behalf of employees to a retirement plan administered by the Consolidated Public Retirement Board. House Bill 2743 eliminating reference to municipal policemen's pension and relief funds and firemen's pension and relief funds in section restricting investment, and House Bill 2780 permitting employees of educational services cooperatives to participate in the state teachers retirement system. Reports the same back with recommendation that each do pass, that they be referred to Committee on Finance.
Report to be received. Each bill be referred to Committee on Finance.
Committee on Pensions and Retirement has had under consideration House Bill 2738 authorizing prepayment of certain required payments into a policeman's pension and relief fund or a fireman's pension and relief fund. Reports the same back with amendment with recommendation that it do pass as amended, that it be referred to Committee on Finance.
Report to be received. Bill be referred to Committee on Finance.
Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 2583 Family Planning Access Act. Reports back Committee substitute, therefore, with recommendation that the Committee substitute do pass.
Report to be received.
Committee on Energy has had under consideration House Bill 2661 relating to natural gas utilities. Reports back Committee substitute, therefore, with recommendation that the Committee substitute do pass.
Report to be received.
Committee on Energy has had under consideration Committee substitute for Senate Bill 223 authorizing the Department of Commerce promulgate legislative rules. Reports the same back with recommendation that it do pass, that it be referred to Committee on Judiciary.
Report to be received. Bill be referred to Committee on Judiciary. Further committee reports to select committees. Messages from the Executive, messages from the Senate.
The Senate has concurred in the House amendments to and pass Senate Bill 27 removing restrictions on where certain traditional lottery games may be played.
Message be received. Further message from the Senate. Resolutions.
House Resolution 11 recognizing the importance of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline.
Laid in the 49th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with and that they be considered as formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the chamber automation system.
Laid in the 49th, ask unanimous consent that further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with and that each resolution be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as shown in the chamber automation system. Is there objection? Chair hears no objection. Petitions, motions, bills introduced.
House Bill 2851 providing a special license plate to support adoption.
Laid in the 49th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of the bills introduced be dispensed with and they be considered as formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the chamber automation system.
Laid in the 49th, ask unanimous consent that further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with and that each bill be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system. Is there objection? Is there objection? Chair hears no objection. Unfinished business. Bills on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2363 relating to the Upper Kanawha Valley Resiliency and Revitalization Program.
Gentleman from the 48th, Delegate Hamrick, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Upper Kanawha Valley Resiliency and Revitalization Program and Revitalization Council were established by statute in 2016 to respond to the closure of WVU Tech's Montgomery campus. This committee substitute extends the program from 2021 to June 30th, 2024. Sorry. Is that better? Hopefully everyone could hear me, sorry. The committee substitute extends the program from 2021 to June 30th, 2024, and requires an annual report to be made to the Joint Committee on Government and Finance, and the final report be made by October 1st, 2024. The committee substitute further provides that the Revitalization Council shall assess the option of creating a joint establishment of schools assessment pursuant to 18.5.11. Mr. Speaker, I urge passage.
Question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? Gentleman from the 32nd, Doggett Fast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the chairman yield for a question?
Chairman does yield.
Regarding the latter part of this bill that talks about an assessment being made between Kanawha County and Fayette County and the public schools and possibly the creation of schools to serve both of those counties. Am I correct that any action under that assessment would not disrupt the current plans of the Fayette County Board of Education?
Yes, you are correct in that, and the Fayette County Board was represented at the meeting. We did discuss this with them, and they didn't see a problem with the language as it is in the bill.
Okay, so this bill would not disrupt any current plans of the Fayette County Board of Education?
No.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there further members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, 98 ayes, 0 nays, 2 members absent not voting. More than a majority of those present having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. Clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2363.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2490, preventing, proposing, or enforcing rules that prevent recreational water facilities from making necessary upgrades.
Gentleman 27th, Doggett Ellington, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill allows public pools to make repairs or update equipment without the approval of the Bureau of Public Health, provided that these updates do not exceed $25,000. Any changes above the $25,000 threshold would then fall under the purview of the Commissioner of the Bureau of Public Health. The changes included in this bill will not affect water quality. Mr. Speaker, I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? Gentleman from the 50th, Doggett Caputo. Gentleman yield for a question?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this addressing a specific problem somewhere?
I believe it is by the lead sponsor.
Where would that problem be?
I think it was in Kaiser.
And it's a municipal,
I think it's one of the city
include
pools.
a municipal swimming pool?
I believe so.
Would this apply to a kiddie pool?
If they have one, I guess.
A cesspool?
Probably.
The one thing that I'm really befuddled here, Mr. Chairman, I look at page 1 of the bill, and it is 16-1-4 on line 4. It talks about barbers and beauticians.
That's just in the general code.
Well, my question is, how in the heck do you ever get this bill out of GovOrg? Because we deal with barbers and beauticians every day in GovOrg.
You might have to talk to the lead sponsor on that one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are there further members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, 98 ayes, 0 nays, 2 members absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present having voted in the affirmative. Chair declares the bill passed. Clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2490.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 2691, providing that a license to carry a concealed deadly weapon expires on the holder's birthday.
Gentleman 27, Delegate Schott to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning. Currently, West Virginia provides that a license to carry a concealed deadly weapon expires 5 years from the year of its issue. Apparently, there is some variance in how some counties compute this 5-year period, with some doing it from the date of application, others from the date of issue. The purpose of this bill is to change the applicable section to add language clarifying that a license to carry a deadly weapon expires on the holder's birthday 5 years later for all licenses issued after January 1, 2020. In other words, to sync it with your driver's license, which also expires on your birthday. Mr. Speaker, I urge passage.
Question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are the members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? Gentleman 22nd, Delegate Jeffries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Gentleman does yield.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, will this cause current holders to lose and or gain some months on their current concealed weapons permit?
Counsel tells me that the way it's interpreted, it could cause them to gain some additional months over and above the 5 years that's currently on their license, the way the bill is written, but not lose any.
But not lose any. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Are there further members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, 98 ayes, 0 nays, 2 members absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present having voted in the affirmative. Chair declares the bill passed. Clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 2691.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2779, providing that proceeds from certain oil and gas wells to persons whose name or address are unknown are to be kept in a special fund.
The gentleman from the 8th, Delegate Anderson, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This committee substitute for House Bill 2779 is an environmental protection bill and amends both the partition statute and the statute for leasing missing and unknown heirs. The repeated use of these statutes over the years have resulted in the accumulation of unclaimed wealth throughout West Virginia. The funds are currently being held in the various county courts. In the partition section, under the partition statute, when a piece of property is partitioned by sale, the interests of missing and unknown owners are paid into the court, and the money is kept until the rightful owner is identified. Under the bill, after 7 years, the proceeds from the sale of the missing and unknown owners will be transferred from the county receiver to the Oil and Gas Reclamation Fund. The Oil and Gas Reclamation Fund is administered by the Department of Environmental Protection to plug orphan wells in this state. Under the leasing provisions of this bill, under the statute for leasing, the missing and unknown owners, a judge executes the lease on behalf of the missing and unknown owners and appoints a fiduciary to hold the funds until the rightful owner is identified or until the surface owner becomes entitled to the funds. Under the statute, after 7 years, a bona fide surface owner becomes entitled to the money being held for past production, a deed for the mineral interest, and all future income. This bill will transfer to the Oil and Gas Reclamation Fund all funds paid from the beginning of the lease through the execution of the Special Commissioner's deeds. After the execution of the Special Commissioner deed, all proceeds will be paid to the surface owner in accordance with the rights under the deed. The bill uses the stagnant funds currently being held in the county courts to plug thousands of orphan oil and gas wells that are presently polluting or having the potential to pollute the environment. It also grants rulemaking authority to the Department of Environmental Protection and cleans up technical issues. I urge passage.
Question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine or ascertain the result. On this question, 98 ayes, 0 nays, 2 members absent not voting. More than a majority of those present having voted in the affirmative, chair declares the bill passed. Clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2779.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Request concurrence therein. Are there further bills on third reading? If not, bills on second reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 240, repealing certain legislative rules no longer authorized or are obsolete.
Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to postpone action one day.
Lady from the 49th asked unanimous consent to postpone action one day on committee substitute for Senate Bill 240. Is there objection? Is there objection? Chair hears no objection. Next bill on second reading.
Senate Bill 324 relating to Commissioner of Agriculture employees.
Are there amendments? Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2204 prohibiting state licensing boards from hiring lobbyists.
Are there amendments? Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2479 Corporate Governance Annual Disclosure Act.
Are there amendments? Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2481 permitting retail sale of alcoholic beverages on Sundays after 1 p.m.
Are there amendments? Bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2608 repealing the requirement of printing the date a consumer deposit account was opened on paper checks.
Are there amendments? Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2686 relating to permitting the Supreme Court of Appeals of West Virginia to create a family drug court pilot program.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced. Are there further bills on second reading? Bills on first reading?
Senate Bill 354 expiring funds to balance of auditor's office.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2365 clarifying the definition of an employee for the purpose of unemployment compensation and workers' compensation.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2392 allowing the Alcohol Beverage Control Commissioner to issue special one-day licenses for charitable events.
Bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2528 relating to employees of the Commission of Agriculture.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2545 exempting recipients of the Distinguished Purple Heart Medal from payment of the vehicle registration fee.
Bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2546 excluding from tax equipment installed in a motor vehicle for use of a person with medical necessity.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2554 relating to transfers and enrollment policies for students in public schools.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2601 relating to the review and approval of state property leases.
Bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2696 creating an additional index system for state-owned lands.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2737 relating to training of state tax division employees.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2740 barring a parent from inheriting from a child in certain instances.
Bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2746 relating to administration of estates.
Bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2759 providing for the ancillary administration of West Virginia real estate owned by non-residents by affidavit and without administration.
Bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2815 raising the value of goods or chattels that are taken in larceny to constitute grand larceny.
Bill will be advanced. Are there further bills on first reading? If not, leaves of absence. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For our colleagues, Delegates Kump and Worrell.
Are there objections? No objections. Leaves will be granted. Remarks by members of the House. Gentleman from the 66th, Delegate Espinoza.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'll try to be brief. In recent days, I've heard some assertions that the whole idea of taking up public education reform in a comprehensive manner is just a novel approach. I actually have here now in my hand 3 such public education comprehensive education reform bills. The first, Senate Bill 359, introduced at the request of Democrat Governor Earl Ray Tumblin, was taken up during my first session in the legislature back in 2013. If you actually look at this bill compared to the Senate Bill 451, this bill is actually more voluminous than the legislation that is now under consideration in House Education. Senate Bill 359, as I recall, dealt with a host of provisions. Those educators in the room and others on the Education Committee will recall that this legislation dealt with the hiring criteria. It basically provided flexibility for school districts. If the principal of a school in the the faculty senate agreed that a particular applicant for a teacher position was the most qualified, and the superintendent of that school district concurred with their recommended applicant, that was a legal hire. That person got the job, so that's in here. Also dealt with, as I recall, school standards. It dealt with the school calendar, provided flexibility that I've certainly championed and was happy to support, that really empowers local school districts to decide, what school calendar works best for their district's unique needs. As opposed to a one-size-fits-all approach, any school district, based on the legislation introduced, this comprehensive education reform bill allows each school district to decide what school calendar fits best. I have no doubt, I see some piece of legislation in the system this session. I'm sure I'll have to defend that freedom again, but again, that's in here. Along with a host of other provisions. I believe some degree of professional development was in there, but again, clearly comprehensive education reform. Just a year later, Senate Bill 451 came over to us from the Senate, and when it landed on our desk, it had grown from, I think, about a 75-page bill to over 100 pages in length. And I particularly recall this bill because, as a member of the House Education Committee, as we were reviewing the bill and taking it up, we realized that in some respects, the strike and insert amendment that was offered up in House Education was trying to gut provisions of Senate Bill 359 that we had just enacted the year before. So again, this bill really stuck out to me that it dealt with much of the same material. Again, just a host of provisions that are contained in 351. Just 2 years ago, we received another bill by then Democrat Governor Jim Justice, House Bill 2711. Again, comprehensive education reform. Of course, it transitioned away from recess. It also dealt with standards, as I recall. It provided the mechanism by which school districts can bank time if they commit to a certain number of minutes per day. They can bank time to offset days lost to inclement weather. They can also bank days that can be used for time with students not present, to where teachers can collaborate. And again, all that's in 2711, a fairly comprehensive bill. So, Mr. Speaker, I would just submit that the approach that the Senate's taken and that the legislation that the House Education Committee is now carefully reviewing is not an unusual approach to trying to ensure that our public education system serves our students across West Virginia. And I commend the House Education Committee. From what I've learned of the strike and insert, the proposed strike and insert amendment, it's addressing many of the concerns that I've heard about. Most of the concerns as far as school choice, perhaps taking a little bit more cautious approach to that, like other states have done when they first have adopted school choice, and again, some of the other concerns that have been expressed by constituents. So again, I commend the House Education Committee for taking the concerns of members and constituents alike seriously, and look forward to following your deliberations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from the 11th, Delegate Atkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to speak today about a subject that's hard for me to talk about. People ask me, well, what'd you do Saturday morning? Well, I picked up the local newspapers. Parents using drugs for child neglect, indicted for child neglect. The charges allege that the person returning their 7-year-old who ended up taking both children to her home and calling 911. When police arrived, they allegedly found The father unconscious on the floor by the door, and his wife on the couch, unresponsive and turning blue. Paramedics revived them with Narcan, and police said they found 10 Xanax tablets, a plate with residue, and cut straw nearby. This is in our rural West Virginia. Same article. Parents with felony child neglect for incident that happened about a month later. Patrolman presented the case to the jury that alleges while he was investigating a stabbing, he found several needles and drug-related items within reach of the children. These are our students. Okay, another local paper in my district. Woman charged with child abuse. School personnel reported a 6-year-old male student told them he had been beaten by his mother during the previous weekend. One staff member has observed bruising on the child's face and took him to the school nurse, according to the complaint. Staff members observed several bruises here, there, all over his body. The student who said he was where he was when they asked him where he was downstairs in the basement of his home, sitting on the couch, and his mother came in and attacked him. So the policeman interviewed the other youths who were present at the home during the incident. The children stated they did not see what happened, but they could hear it, according to the complaint. Shortly before noon, a representative of NECO foster care arrived at the police station and reported she was there to obtain information and to remove 6 children from the home. And just another article. This one was in the Gazette. I think it was, I'd like to quote Jeremiah Samples. We have to get in front of the issue. Samples said after the meeting, we have to provide prevention services, wraparound services to families that the children never have come into state custody, so we can eliminate the trauma from happening in the first place. Prevention versus rehabilitation. Students, children first. Jobs. Students, children are crying out for help. They are disrupting our classrooms because of trauma in their young life. Teachers are asking for help to deal with these students. Students cannot learn, teachers cannot teach students who have mental and behavioral health issues, traumas in their lives caused from a disruptive home life, drugs, alcohol, divorce, living with one parent, no parents, living with grandparents, foster parents. In the past 3 years, I have talked with teachers, school administrators, attended community health meetings, drug coalition meetings, numerous meetings in our health and education committees. Last year during interims, the DHHR and our State Board of Education representatives identified many traumas facing our students. The DHHR came back to our committee in December with a report stating we need 1,500 health professionals, nurses, counselors, school psychologists, psychiatrists, etc., to address the mental and behavioral health issues of our students in our school system. I feel mental and behavioral health needs have not received enough attention, and I feel that the effects from the lack of attention are showing up in our classrooms. Our teachers are concerned and frustrated because they cannot teach, because they have to deal with student behavioral issues. There's no place else to go. This is a classroom problem, a problem for our students, our teachers, our society. We must strive to provide mental and behavioral health help for our students who have issues. And hopefully, this will create a pathway for a drug-free, educated, stable-minded, able-bodied young adult for our society and our workforce and for West Virginia. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from the 37th, Delegate Pushkin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I'd like to ask unanimous consent that the heartfelt words of the gentleman from the 11th be recorded in the appendix of the journal.
Are there objections? Chair hears no objections. The gentleman may proceed.
Would the gentleman from the 66th please yield?
Yes, I will.
Thank you, sir. You referred to what was 3 comprehensive bills that have been worked on by this body since you've been here. Was that correct? That were like large bills that were labeled as education reform? That's
at least 3. I mean, those are 3 that came to mind. Again, 359 stood out in my mind because it was my very first year in the legislature, and it was such a comprehensive bill. I mentioned that 409 stood out in my mind because it was not as it came over from the Senate, but the committee substitute that was introduced in House Ed, and we may have served on that committee together, I can't recall. I was concerned about that one because it was really going to reverse a lot of those reforms that were enacted a year before. The good news was we were actually able to work it in committee, and I was actually ultimately able to support that legislation.
Okay. Well, do you remember if in any of those bills or any provisions that took money out of public schools and allowed for folks to put it into like savings accounts?
I don't believe there were any. I don't think there were any school choice measures in any of those pieces of legislation. So and as you may be aware, West Virginia is really only one of only a handful of states that does not offer school choice. And as I understand it, that's really one of the aims of Senate Bill 451 to allow West Virginia parents, students, and communities some of those same flexibilities that most of the rest of the nation enjoy.
But like you said, but allowing for money to come out of the public school system and go into these educational savings accounts, that wasn't in any of those bills, right? And there was no provisions in there to allow money to come out of public schools and go into public-private charters, correct? That wasn't in any of those bills, was it?
No school choice measures whatsoever. And again, just to be clear, as I understand Senate Bill 451, those are public charter schools, not private charter schools. I heard some reference there to private. These would be public schools. As far as the education scholarship accounts, again, nothing in those bills. And again, I think sadly, I think West Virginia, that's why we're one of only a handful of states. That's why we're an outlier in school choice, because we've never offered those type of provisions in a comprehensive education reform bill.
I guess it's how you would define school choice. I guess it's a matter of my opinion versus yours. We could be here all day, and I assure everybody we will not be. I just wanted to get that out, that maybe where the problem lies, while we were able to take those bills up, because it didn't have that controversial measure that would take money out of public schools and privatize it. So that might be the difference in the bills that you were referring to and what we have now. I'm looking over the changes that were made by the Education Committee, and I'm just now going over some of the changes that they've made in that strike and insert. But thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you.
And I think you point to exactly the value of allowing the committee process to go forward. I'm very pleased that we were able to do that yesterday. Senate Bill 409, again, that committee substitute that was taken up. Initially, myself and pretty much our entire caucus was vigorously opposing that legislation because some of the provision was just so objectionable. The fact that a lot of those flexibilities that Governor Tumblin had proposed and that the legislature adopted just 1 year before were going to be eliminated. But because we worked that in committee, I think that bill ended up passing with 88 votes, including virtually everyone on the then Republican minority. So I think that's the opportunity before us to make the necessary changes so that we can hopefully all address the issues that are clearly making it more difficult for our public education in West Virginia to be successful.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're very welcome.
You've gone above and beyond my line of questioning, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
The gentleman with 56, Delegate Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A little over 3 years ago, or about 3 years ago, this body asked a question that we thought would get a simple answer to. How many vehicles does the state of West Virginia own? At that time, Fleet Management gave us an estimate of about 7,500 vehicles that they were tracking. Division of Motor Vehicles told us they had about 10,500 active license plates. And the Board of Risk and Insurance Management said they were insuring approximately 12,500 vehicles. Without a clear answer, this body passed HB 4015 last year. That has now been in effect. You've seen the new gold and blue license plates out there. So today I can report the state of West Virginia, according to the Division of Motor Vehicles and the Licensing Project, owns 8,380 vehicles. 4,175 are Class A, which are cars and light trucks under 10,000 pounds. 2,907 are Class B, which are your heavy trucks. Most of those are with the Division of Highways. 1,031 Class C trailers, which are towed by the heavy trucks. 5 motorcycles. 18 pieces of mobile equipment which have plates. 36 house trailers. Now what this is would be like the state police maybe has a mobile crime lab that's pulled by a truck. That would qualify as that. And lastly, they have 208 Class T trailers which are pulled by Class A vehicles and are less than 2,000 pounds. So again, the total number of vehicles we own is 8,380. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 30th, Delegate Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd also like to ask a question and get a simple answer, and would ask that the gentleman from the 66th yield again, if I can, just to follow up.
I'll be happy to take the floor and yield to a question.
Thank you. You were kind enough to update the body on some previous efforts to undertake comprehensive education reform. You reference previous bills, House Bill 355, 409. Could you remind me whether either of those bills included a pay raise for public employees, for teachers and school service personnel?
I don't believe they did. I think a number of these years, I don't think we gave any pay raises at all, which was certainly to my chagrin, and I'm certainly happy, and I suspect all of us are happy that we're in a position to, again this year, offer what will amount to the largest pay raise in state history. So
I'm hopeful that we can do that, yes.
Absolutely.
Did those bills include a non-severability clause? Did those bills include the clause that prevented the individual provisions of the bill being removed from the bill?
I really couldn't say conclusively. I don't recall them being in there. And I don't believe the strike and insert amendment that's being considered in House Education today includes a severability clause.
So that's been, I don't serve on that committee, so that's been removed at this point.
That's my understanding, but I'd certainly defer to our esteemed colleague.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman at 29th, Delegate Steele.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As is quite obvious now, our debate is turning to education from here on out, which is necessary and welcomed. We need to have that debate, and we need to talk about it. Before, and we are halfway through, I believe today, if I'm not mistaken, tomorrow we will be halfway through. And before we get too far along, I rise today to talk to you a little bit about our coal industry. And we have some bills that are waiting to be addressed, and I hope soon we are going to be addressing them, and it doesn't get lost in this debate that we're going to have. But I rise today to address a challenge that we have on our horizon, as well as an opportunity. West Virginia must stand with the West Virginia coal miner. West Virginia coal miners make it possible for everything that we talk about in here to happen. According to WVU last year, The coal mining industry is responsible for about $523 million in tax collections from the various different sources of tax collections that are applicable to the industry. It is especially true in my district, District 29, which I am proud to say is the home of the richest coal seam in the world, the Winding Gulf. That industry is cherished where I live and touches everyone who lives there. Coal production, thankfully, is up in West Virginia. And we're thankful for the increase in severance and the increase in employment, and things are going well. We've seen surpluses. We're able to have conversations about pay raises and reforms and different issues. However, that increase is almost entirely driven by metallurgical coal and export steam and export metallurgical coal, as well as domestic metallurgical coal. We are making more steel in this country, and that has increased the demand for our metallurgical coal, but the rest of the increase from coal is being sent to other parts of the world. The coal that is mined here in West Virginia and used to make electricity, or what we call steam coal or thermal coal, continues to lose ground and market share compared to coal mined in other states, primarily those states that are right around us, Ohio and Pennsylvania. About 400 coal-fired power plants have been shut down in the United States of America since 2008, and there's approximately 10 more that purchase West Virginia coal on a regular basis that are going to be shut down probably within the next year or two. Now, these are scheduled closings that have been coming down the way for some time. This has resulted that in 2008, we were selling approximately 100 million tons of thermal coal throughout the United States of America. Today, that number is down to 44 million tons. We're down to less than half of what we were in 2008. In 2008, West Virginia coal was shipped to 165 domestic power plants. Last year, we only sent coal to 51 domestic coal-fired power plants. Southern West Virginia has bore the brunt of that decrease, and it was the high-quality, low-sulfur coal that was used at these now closed power plants. But the deterioration of the domestic coal, steam coal market continues. In fact, domestic steam coal production in West Virginia has fallen even further after the big wave of power plant closures. So looking at 2016, we were at 48 million tons of steam coal. In 2017, we were at 46 million tons of steam coal. And last year, 44 million. So that number has steadily dropped, even now over the last couple years. Now, why is that decrease continuing, you might ask? It is because West Virginia coal is more expensive compared to coal from Illinois, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and the other states that are around us. Power companies have to purchase the lowest cost fuel available to them. So they're turning more and more to the other states that are around us to fill up their coffers, to fill up their need of coal. The primary driver of that disparity in price is our severance tax rates when it comes to steam coal. West Virginia, if we assumed $40 a ton for steam coal, and I want you to remember those numbers of 100 million tons in 2008, 44 million tons today, and apply that $40 figure to it, and you'll see a staggering difference of the lost revenue coming into our state. But at $40 a ton, that equates to $2 per ton in severance tax that is charged for West Virginia coal. And looking at our competitor states, Illinois, $0. Indiana, $0. $0 in Pennsylvania, 10 cents in Ohio, and 17 cents in Maryland. That's compared to our $2. That puts us at a very, very large disadvantage when it comes to our neighboring states. Now, we know what can happen in West Virginia when coal production drops. It takes the state budget with it. For better or worse, we live and die, feast or famine, along with our most prized industry, the coal industry. However, it is not just the tax revenues from coal production that is lost when these downturns happen. Men and women lose their jobs. Capital expenditures by mining companies disappear. For every one coal mining job, there are another 3 to 11 created throughout the West Virginia economy. According to another WVU study, that's $1.8 billion in total wages paid to folks that mine coal or are tied to the coal mining industry here in our state. The capital expenditures of the coal companies that reside in our state and are part of our community, again, according to WVU, in 2017, those capital expenditures were $9.2 billion. $9.2 billion. If we do not help out this industry, if we do not help out our coal miners digging domestic steam coal, and this is the challenge before us, I'm afraid that those jobs are at risk. The export and metallurgical coal market improvements have helped, but steam coal is still the biggest market for our coal. 48% of it is used in power plants here in America to make electricity. We have to think in terms of a new market dynamic. The days of West Virginia's coal being assured a place in the domestic electricity market are gone. The closure of those 400 power plants has assured that. Now we have to assume that our coal is going to have to compete in a very competitive marketplace with Ohio, with Pennsylvania, with Maryland, Virginia, Indiana, and even Illinois. Because coal power plants closures are continuing, and most of them were planned years ago, each time a plant closes, even if it was not burning West Virginia coal, it still harms our market, because that same coal that's available from Ohio or available from Pennsylvania is now back again on the open market, and it is still priced upwards to 5% better than ours. So I urge the body, and I know we're going to get into a debate, and it needs to happen, but I urge us to not forget to consider some of these proposals regarding the tax burden on West Virginia coal. Our reaction to a tax decrease is sometimes that we're handing out something to big business, that we're just taking care of a company. This tax that I'm talking about is not borne by the coal company. It is paid by the power plants that are purchasing the coal. Ultimately, the consumer, me and you, our constituents back home in their power bills, they're the ones that are paying this excise tax. It's not some coal company that's paying it. Moreover, I submit to you, it is paid by every West Virginia citizen by the loss of tax dollars towards our schools, roads, and other services that are vital to our state. 1 million tons of coal purchased from Ohio, and not West Virginia, is a $2 million loss to our citizens. A $2 million loss. A significant portion of that money is on the county level. And we all know how important that is right now for a lot of our counties. So we have before us an opportunity to help our most prized industry, our citizens, and our country. Most of what we do here, especially, we're talking about education and other things, those are things that are wholly within our border. Wholly within our border. However, our nation relies upon us as guardians of the coal industry. We have been faithful to that cause even while the rest of the country has not been faithful to us in that. Let's endeavor to lead again in that area and make West Virginia the most competitive market for coal and continue to contribute to the positive growth in our state. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman of the 16th, Delegate Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, we had the opportunity to move a bill into committee. And, as a body here and all of us working, that's what we need to do. We all ran, and this is my first year. Been in business a long time. All of us are asked when we run, do you realize what you're getting into? Do you know what you're doing? My answer was yes.
I've studied this. I watched the proceedings last year, listened to them in my earpiece when I was doing something else, and became very interested and wanted to come here and help make a difference, a positive difference. My afternoon was going extremely well, and I start getting texts from my wife and from my daughter. What happened? What happened today in the chamber? I'm getting emails that are horrible. This is my wife. Terrible email, mean email. What is your husband doing? I was endorsed by Future 55. My wife teaches. I am on PEI, as many of us are. You know, because I was endorsed, I'm not a rubber stamp for anybody, nor will I ever be. I have my own thoughts. I have my own ideals, and when we get our information and gather that, we generally, all of us, make a good decision that we feel comfortable with. Not a decision to make somebody happy, because ultimately we upset some other people. My daughter is texting me. Gee whiz, I had people asking me, what happened? What is your father doing? You know, he's a liar. He's a cheat. He has broken his promise, which I never made. I was taught in education at a public school, I went in Huntington, that my teachers taught me that you don't dismiss things, you get to the bottom of it. You collect your information. You do your due diligence. You work things out, and by doing those and going through the process, make an educated decision. That's what we're doing. You know, we are not 59, we're not 41, we're not 34, and we're not 1 if we include the governor. There's 135 of us that have the ability to make a difference. My goal, and in looking at this bill, I want it to be fair. It's not going to be great. It's not going to be bad. I think with what our education committee is doing and the qualified people we have serving on that committee to bring up the pros and cons of this bill, will put something out to us that is going to be absolutely the best bill it can be. We're not here for teachers. We're not here for students right now. We're here for education in West Virginia. What are we going to do as a state to help all of these people here in West Virginia and our education, so when people move here, what are your education systems like? When we want to get business to come in here, that's a main thing they look at. When they buy a home in your city, what about your schools? We need to pick that up. We have the opportunity to actually do something extremely well for everybody, the state, the students, the teachers, the service personnel, everybody together. And honestly, I really am excited, disappointed in yesterday and some things that went on. We all, knowing that we get into this, we can handle our decisions. We can defend our decisions, but it's not fair for people to bring in wives, children, husbands, businesses when they're saying, hey, don't support that guy's business anymore. You know, that's a slim way of looking at something, and that is a negative thing that I've seen. The only negative thing that I've seen. It's interesting to be in here and hear different sides, different opinions. I have met so many great people in this room, you know, and I consider us, we're colleagues, we're friends. Some of us, we have different ideals, but we're going to work together to get a problem solved and to put the best thing out there that we can put out there. So, you know, yes, I was disturbed, and as a husband, you want to protect. We all do that, you know. And I did want the opportunity today to speak, just to share a concern that some of you all may have. Let's have people come and talk to us. We ran. Our children didn't, our spouses didn't run, and our businesses didn't run. We all ran because we're decision makers. We're leaders. We work together. We have ideas. And we want to put out the best products, the best bills that we can put out to make our state the place to live, to work, and raise a family. That's all I have to say today. I'm looking forward to what comes out of committee. I'd like us to wear this bill. I want it to be a great bill for education. I want it to be a House bill, not necessarily a Senate bill. Let's look at it. Let's make it good. Thank you all very much for your time, and I look forward to finishing up. We're, like we said, halfway through, so it's gone quickly for me, and it's been a pleasure working with you all, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
The gentleman, the 22nd, Doug Maynard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would ask that the gentleman from the 29th comments be printed in the appendix of the journal.
Are there objections? Chair hears no objections. Gentleman from the 44th, Doug Hannah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would ask that the gentleman's remarks from the 16th be printed in the appendix of the journal.
Are there objections? Chair hears no objections. Introduction to guests. Gentleman from the 9th, Doug Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The docket of the day comes to us from Charleston, West Virginia. Please welcome Dr. Ario Anga.
Gentleman from the 17th, Doug Lovejoy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Joining us in the West Gallery, we have Jill LaFear. She's a constituent that's up here today advocating and watching on behalf of parents the education bill. So please make her feel welcome.
Are there further introductions? Miscellaneous business? If not, lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move, subject to announcements, that the House adjourn until 11 a.m. Thursday, February 7th.
Lady from the 49th moves that, subject to announcements, the House stand adjourned until 11 a.m. Thursday, February 7th, 2019. Are there announcements? Lady from the 49th.
The last day to introduce bills is February 12th. Members need to have their bills to bill drafting pre-approved by February 8th for introduction.
Gentleman from the 10th, Doug Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Finance will not meet this afternoon. Also, your Committee on Banking Issues will meet tomorrow in Government Org at 10 a.m.
Gentleman from the 35th, Doug Capito.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Committee on the Judiciary will continue its posted agenda at 2 o'clock today in the committee room. Thank you.
The gentlelady from the 38th, Doug Graves.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Women's Caucus will meet immediately following session. The topic is going to be West Virginia women in filmmaking. I'd also like to issue an invitation to the rest of the body. In fact, I'm going to go so far as to say I would consider it a personal favor to me if you would consider attending this presentation. It also deals with some upcoming legislation I would like everyone to know about. So it's immediately following session in the governor's press conference room, which I don't know exactly where that is, but I'm hoping to find out. So anyway, I'd like to invite all of you to join. Lunch will be provided for the Women's Caucus members. I expect there to be leftovers though, so you guys can help yourself.
Gentleman 21st, Doug Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Education will resume our meeting resume our posted agenda at 3 p.m. in the East Wing Committee Room. That's room 215E. Republican members will caucus at 2 p.m. today in the chairman's office. Also, go ahead and announce the meeting for tomorrow. We'll be in the East Wing Committee Room, room 215E at 9 a.m. That's the Gov Org room. Thank you.
The gentleman of the 28th, Doug Pack.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Government and Organization will reconvene at 2 p.m. this afternoon to continue our posted agenda from this morning, and we will be meeting in the House Education Committee Room, room 432M. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman of the 9th, Doug Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Prevention and Treatment of Substance Abuse will meet tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. in room 215E.
Gentleman the 1st, Doug McGeehan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Veterans Affairs and Homeland Security will meet in House Education Room at 1 o'clock. The agenda is posted.
The gentleman from the 48th, Doug Queen.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Committee on Small Business, Entrepreneurship, and Economic Development will meet tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. now in House Education. The agenda will be posted.
Gentleman from the 12th, Doug Westfall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As announced, your Committee on Banking and Insurance will not meet tomorrow morning in GovOrg. It'll meet tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. in House Education. So your Banking and Insurance Committee will meet House Education tomorrow, 10 a.m. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 10th, Doug Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Energy will meet tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the Judiciary Conference Room. The agenda will be posted. Republican members will meet tomorrow in the Chairman's office at 1:30. Thank you.
Gentleman from the 41st, Doug Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Health and Human Resources will meet tomorrow at 2 p.m. in room 215E. The agenda will be posted, and Republican members will caucus in the Chairman's office at 1:30.
The gentleman from the 66th, Doug Espinoza.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just wanted to remind members, next Tuesday, February 12th, is our annual speakers dinner. It's right out here in the upper house rotunda. Delegate Seipold and her committee have arranged for a delicious meal and other entertainment. I'm sure will be featured. Saturday is the last day to RSVP, so if you have not RSVP'd, please take time right after the session, slip over to the Speaker's office and RSVP. We'd love to have all of you there. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 17th, Doug Rohrbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Seniors, Children's, and Family Issues will meet tomorrow at 1 p.m. in the House Government Organization room.
Lady with 32nd, Doug Staggers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Democratic members of Health and Human Resources will caucus tomorrow, 1:30, room 230 East. Thank you.
Gentleman from the 2nd, Doug DeCerio.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The West Virginia AFL-CIO will hold a labor caucus today immediately following the floor session in Government Organization Room 215E, and lunch will be provided.
Gentleman from the 67th, Doug Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Democratic members of the Education Committee will caucus today at 1 p.m. in room 252.
Are there further announcements? If not, the question before the House is a motion by the lady from the 49th that the House stand adjourned until 11 a.m. on Thursday, February 7th. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. Ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The House is adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow.
The Senate will please come to order. The Senate will please come to order. All those not having privileges of the floor will please vacate the chamber. And with those on the floor and our guest in the gallery, please rise as we are led in prayer this morning by the senator from Wood County. And then please remain standing as we are led in the pledge this morning by the senator from Logan County.
And if everyone in the gallery and on the floor would join me in prayer. Thank you, Father, for another day, Lord, and an honor to serve you in the State House, Lord. And that's not just the senators and legislators, that's everyone involved here, Father. We're doing a great work, God. Help us to remember that. And we certainly need wisdom. We certainly need humility. And we need your help, Father. And I pray you bless the leadership. Give them wisdom. And bless every senator with wisdom also. Be with our friend from Nicholas, God. Be with him and help him to heal quickly, we pray. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Senator. The senator from Logan County.
Would you please join me as we honor America? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. The reading of the journal.
West Virginia Legislature, Senate Journal, February 5th, 2019. The Senate met at 11:10
The senator
a.m.
from Wetzel County requests unanimous consent that further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Introduction of guests. On behalf of the Senate, it is my pleasure to welcome our honorary pages for the day. Please stand and be recognized as your name is called. As guest of the junior senator from the 10th, the senator from Greenbrier, we have Pierce Barkley. As guest of the senator from Harrison, we have Karen McKinney, Brock Oliverio, Chrislyn Whitehair, and as guest of the senior senator from the 16th, Cassidy Rucker. If they would all please stand and the Senate make them feel welcome. Thank you. You may be seated. Further introductions, the junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Senate, it's my pleasure and yours to introduce our doc for the day. In the rear of the chamber, we have Dr. Ario Enga from initially the Los Angeles area, but now chose West Virginia to train and hopefully will call it home someday. We'd like to welcome Dr. Enga.
Further introductions, the senator from Boone County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Senator from Logan, I'm very pleased to introduce my Fraser Singleton intern. Seated in the rear is Caleb Stowe. He's a University of Charleston political science major. If he'd stand, the Senate make him welcome.
The senator from Pleasance County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Also seated in the back is Caroline Curry. She's a student at the University of Charleston, and she is the Singleton student. Would you please stand? And thank you.
The senior senator from the 16th.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's the senator from Jefferson. My pleasure to have with us today the father of Cassidy Rucker. We have Clarence Rucker, if he would stand and receive a warm Senate welcome.
The senior senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Seated in the North Gallery is Carl Carter and Matt Bragg. They are sanitarians for the Mercer County Health Department. They're here today for Public Health Day. Gentlemen, stand, and Senate join me and make them welcome.
The senior senator from the 5th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senator from Cabell and myself, we have some parents of the Cabell Midland Boys Cross Country Championship team that's here today. If they would stand and we'd welcome them, Ed and Angie Armbruster and Tanya Parker and others that are here.
The senior senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf and my senator from Kanawha, we have with us today in the South Gallery from John Adams Middle School, we have teacher Stephanie Melace, aide Corian Wolford, counselor Deborah Frostnick, one of the parents Barbara Moore, students Aiden Cross, William Launcher, Brooke Mackey, Aiden Daughtery, and Colton Moore. Would they stand and the Senate make them welcome, please?
The senator from Harrison County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of my senior senator from Braxton, and it's your pleasure and mine, Mr. President, to welcome some of the parents who have brought our pages down here today and who without whom we would not have pages, so we owe them a great debt. And if they would stand as I call their name, the mother of Kieran McKinney, Keisha Calger, the father of Brock Oliverio, Greg Oliverio, and the father of Chrislyn Whitehair, John, dropped her off but was unable to stay. But if you'd all give him a nice Senate welcome, I'd appreciate it.
The senator from Greenbrier County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm pleased to have with me today my friend Josh Miller. Josh, would you please stand up? Josh is the president of People's First of the Greenbrier Valley and is here advocating for IDD waiver funds today. Will the Senate please make Josh welcome?
The senior senator from the 16th.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's also my pleasure and the senator from Jefferson to have with us Angie Gray, who's with the Berkeley County and Morgan County Health Department in the back gallery. If she'd stand and receive a warm Senate welcome. Angie?
The senior senator from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to follow up from the senior senator from the 16th, and on behalf of the senator from Morgan and myself from the Berkeley County Health Department, we got Bill Kearns, Angie Gray, who was just introduced, Dr. Reedy, Tim Ziegler, and Karis Nolan. Please stand, and will the Senate make them welcome?
Further introductions? Further introductions? The senator from Wayne, or senior senator from the 5th.
Thank you. Since we were introducing people with the health departments, it's a longtime friend of mine and one that I used to work with in the lumber business when he was in accounting from there. But Jack Meese, if he would stand here, we also go to church together. Jack?
Further introductions. Communications from the House.
The Clerk of the House announced the passage by that body of committee substitute for House Bill 2004, providing for a program of instruction and workforce preparedness.
Message will be received and referred to Committee on Education.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2420, establishing the Mountaineer Trail Network Recreation Authority.
Message will be received and referred to Committee on Economic Development and then to Committee on Judiciary.
House Bill 2666, supplemental appropriation to the Department of Veterans Assistance.
Message will be received and referred to Committee on Finance.
House Bill 2668, supplemental appropriation to the Department of Administration, Public Defender Services.
Message will be received and referred to the Committee on Finance. Are there further House messages?
No, sir.
Communications from the Executive?
There are none.
Reports from standing committees?
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration Senate Bill 13, changing distribution of racetrack video lottery net terminal income, excess net terminal income, and excess lottery fund, and reports by committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Craig Blair, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration committee substitute for Senate Bill 14, creating West Virginia Farm to School Grant Program, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute for committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Craig Blair, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration Senate Bill 19 relating to Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Craig Blair, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Education has had under consideration Senate Bill 39, providing certain military members in-state residency tuition rates, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Patricia Puertes Rucker, Chair.
Report will be received under the bill's original double committee reference, will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration committee substitute for Senate Bill 317, authorizing 3 or more adjacent counties form Multi-County Trail Network Authority, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute for committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration Senate Bill 352 relating to Division of Corrections and Rehabilitation, acquiring and disposing of goods and commodities, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Chandler Swope, Vice Chair.
Report will be received. The senior senator from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that the second reference on the Committee of Finance be dispensed with.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration Senate Bill 400, allowing Board of Dentistry create specialty licenses, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Government Organization. Respectfully submitted, Michael J. Maroney, Chair.
Report will be received under the bill's original double committee reference, be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 408, determining indigency for public defender services, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration Senate Bill 496, transferring authority to regulate milk from DHHR to Department of Agriculture, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Chandler Swope, Vice Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration Senate Bill 499, amending West Virginia tax laws to conform to changes in partnerships for federal income tax purposes. Engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 2191, relating generally to limited video lottery, and engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 2307, relating to creating a provisional license for practicing barbering and cosmetology, and reports the same back with the recommendation that they each do pass. Respectfully submitted, Craig Blair, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Joint Resolution 5, clarification of the judiciary's role in impeachment proceedings amendment, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute be adopted, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received. Senior Senator from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that the second reference to the Committee on Finance be dispensed with.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered.
Your Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure has had under consideration Senate Concurrent Resolution 16, naming the U.S. Army Specialist 4 Wilbur Allen Smith Memorial Bridge, and Senate Concurrent Resolution 20, naming the U.S. Air Force Staff Sergeant Ryan David Hammond Memorial Bridge, and reports the same back with the recommendation that they each be adopted. Respectfully submitted, Charles H. Clements, Chair.
Report will be received. Are there further reports from standing committees?
That's all I have, sir.
Reports from select committees?
There are none.
Introduction of bills. The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that Senate Bill number 533 through Senate Bill 541 be considered introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system.
Junior senator from the 17th requests unanimous consent that Senate Bills number 533 through Senate Bill number 541 be considered introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Resolutions.
Senate Resolution 30 by Senators Weld, Palumbo, Hamilton, Stallings, Baldwin, Beach, Primal, Seipolt, Swope, Jeffries, and Maroney, recognizing Walking Miracles Family Foundation.
The senator from Brooke County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, committee reference be dispensed with, and the resolution be put upon its adoption.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will please read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 30, recognizing the Walking Miracles Family Foundation for its commitment to supporting caregivers, families, and survivors impacted by childhood, adolescent, and young adult cancer.
Question before the Senate is adoption of the resolution. Is there discussion? The senator from Brooke County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Walking Miracles Family Foundation was founded by Brett Wilson and was named in commemoration of his own personal battle with 2 cancers. At the age of 2, Brett was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. He received chemotherapy and went into remission shortly after receiving treatment. He then relapsed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and continued to receive radiation for his chest and prescribed several drugs. Despite the treatment and medication, his lymphoma mass grew and wrapped around his windpipe so badly that it stopped his breathing, causing him to blue code twice. The Walking Miracles Family Foundation was a dream he had once his treatment was finally finished in 1982. In 2006, however, the side effects of his cancer became a reality. He had no insurance at the time. Brett had to have his gallbladder removed in 2006 and a heart scare in 2008, with his heart only beating 28 times per minute, which led to the insertion of his first pacemaker. In 2012, he began Walking Miracles. The foundation focuses on caregivers, families, and survivors impacted by childhood, adolescent, and young adult cancer in the state of West Virginia. More than 40,000 children undergo cancer treatment each year. 1 in 285 children will be diagnosed with cancer by the time they are 20 years old, with the average age of diagnosis being 6 years old. Over 60,000 young adults aged 20 to 39 are diagnosed with cancer each year in the United States, and about 4% of all cancers are diagnosed in people in this age range. Unlike improvements seen in childhood cancers in older adults, survival rates have not changed much in recent decades. To date, Walking Miracles has given $35,000 in travel assistance to families in 33 of the 55 counties of West Virginia. These funds help pay for gas, food, and lodging. They provide patient and family support and education 24/7. Thank you to Brett Wilson and his team, of which he has Skylar Watering, a board member, with him today, giving patients and their families a better way to seek quality care and live a high quality of life. We thank them for what they do for the families in West Virginia, and I urge adoption of the resolution, Mr. President.
Further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is adoption of the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted. Junior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request the unanimous consent that this Senate stand in brief recess for the purpose of presenting the resolution.
Junior Senator from the 17th moves that the Senate stand in brief recess for the purpose of presenting this resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate in brief recess to present this resolution. Senate will please come to order. Senate will please come to order. Are there further resolutions?
Yes, sir. Senate Resolution 31 by Senators Maroney, Unger, Palumbo, Hamilton, Stallings, Baldwin, Beach, Romano, Prezioso, Plymel, Seipolt, Swope, Jeffries, and Klein, designating February 6, 2019 as Disability Advocacy Day.
The senator from Marshall County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, the committee reference be dispensed with, and the resolution be placed upon adoption.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered. Clerk will please read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 31 designating February 6, 2019 as Disability Advocacy Day at the Legislature.
Question before the Senate is adoption of the resolution. Is there discussion? Is there discussion? Not? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted. Junior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand in brief recess for the purpose of presenting the resolution.
Junior Senator from 17th moves that the Senate stand in brief recess for the purpose of presenting this resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate in brief recess to present this resolution. Senate will please come to order. Senate will please come to order. Are there further resolutions?
Yes, sir. Senate Resolution 32 by Senators Plymel, Wolfle, Unger, Palumbo, Stallings, Baldwin, Beach, Seipolt, Swope, Jeffries, and Lindsay, congratulating the Cabell Midland High School boys cross-country team.
The senior senator from the 5th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Requesting unanimous consent the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration. Committee reference be dispensed with and the resolution be placed upon its adoption.
Senior senator from the 5th requests unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, the committee reference be dispensed with, and that the resolution be placed upon its adoption. Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will please read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 32, congratulating the Cabell Midland boys cross-country team for winning the 2018 Class AAA state championship.
Question for the Senate is adoption of the resolution. Is there discussion? The senior senator from the 5th.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, sometimes people think that honoring state champions and everything is not a good thing to do, but I think it's really important that we honor the student athletes that really strive hard. And if any of you all have run cross country, I did. I wasn't a state champion. I was on the team because we had a very good runner that was a state championship, and they needed more people to fill the spots. So this group is not that way. This group is you know, I've had the privilege of knowing Coach Parsons for a long time, and his dedication to the sport, but to the student athletes that are here, are something else. I mean, right now, Yosef, who is here, is also a math field day second place winner in the county. So you have very, very good students, but they're also good at cross country. And the fact that this is the 10th state championship, they were started in 1994. Now, everybody jokes that I've been here for a while, but they actually were started after I started here. I started here being elected in 1992. Cabell Midland High School was formed from Milton and Barbersville. These student athletes are tremendous. I watched a lot of these run in middle school. My grandson runs in middle school and actually finishes this year at Barbersville Middle, but I saw a lot of these people on the podium of winning the Cabell County as well as moving on. We have a St. Mary's Cross Country Festival that they do at the evening that St. Mary's Hospital sponsors. It's one of the greatest events you could ever come to see, and I don't know how many participants they have. Coach Parsons can tell you that, but the place is so packed there. You have to park along Route 60 to be able to get into this place. But I want to honor these students. They've done such a tremendous job. I congratulate them. It's not easy to win a state championship. The state championship happens to be on their home course. But I will tell you this, if you've ever been to an event, they make this event special for the kids. They honor them and they let them walk through, and all the kids that finish and the state champions get to go into the gymnasium, and they do just such a wonderful job. That's a real tribute to Coach Parsons and the student athletes there. I'd like to thank them and congratulate them on their winning of this.
Is there further discussion? The senator from Tucker County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of the resolution. My son was fortunate enough to go to and get a cross-country scholarship and ran in college, and so I know how what kind of dedication these kids put into it, and unlike the more popular sports, football, basketball, and baseball, which is you can argue, well, the coach likes you more, you get to play more, whatever. The cross country don't have that, because whoever can run the fastest and the longest is going to be the one that runs. So I got an eye opening, because my son had played the other three sports, and when he got into cross country, I thought he was nuts. But after meeting the parents and the cross-country runners, it's a group that is unlike any other group in sports. And I always loved their T-shirts that says, "Our sport is your sport's punishment." Because and it is, and these kids, they get up, they run early in the morning and all through the summer when the heat's on, and it takes a lot of dedication. And I just applaud them, because I know a little bit about it, and I still think you're a little bit crazy, but I'm proud of you. And to win a state championship is just the icing on the cake. So congratulations, and I'm proud to support this. Thank you.
Further discussion? Not. The question before the Senate is adoption of the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted. The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand in brief recess for the purpose of presenting the resolution.
Junior senator from the 17th moves that the Senate stand in brief recess for the purpose of presenting this resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate in brief recess to present this resolution. Senate will come to order. The Senate will come to order. Further resolutions?
No, sir.
Motions? Petitions?
There are none.
The Senator from Marion County seeks recognition.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that the remarks by the Senator from 5th for Cabell Midland High School be printed in the appendix of the Journal.
Without objection, so ordered. Junior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to return to the fourth order of business.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Reports from standing committees.
Your Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure has had under consideration Senate Bill 542, originating in committee, relating to registration fees for military-related special registration plates, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, but with the further recommendation that it first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Charles H. Clements, Chair.
Report will be received. Report will be received. Unfinished business.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 25, naming the U.S. Army Private First Class Andrew Bow Martin Harper Memorial Bridge.
Resolution will be referred to Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. Is there further unfinished business?
No, sir.
Bills on third reading.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 154, using school facilities for funeral and memorial services for certain community members. Third reading of the bill.
The question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The Senator from Jefferson County.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill requires county boards of education to allow school facilities in the county to be used for the funeral or memorial service of a community member of distinction who was a military service member or veteran, who served under honorable conditions, or who served as a first responder. County boards are authorized to set up a process by which requests to use school facilities may be made. The bill provides that county boards are not responsible for any additional costs that may be incurred. Additionally, the bill prohibits a funeral or memorial service held at a school facility from disrupting or interfering with classroom instruction, other scheduled school event or activity, or other official governmental use, such as when a school serves as a polling place for an election. I urge passage.
Further discussion? The Senior Senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to thank the Senator from Jefferson for considering this piece of legislation. Mr. President, every morning that I get up, I thank the Lord that I have the freedoms that I have. And the reason that I cherish those freedoms is because 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we have men and women that serve this country to protect our freedoms and our liberties that we so profoundly enjoy. Mr. President, I'm sure that many of you know in here that we have in this state about 166,000 veterans in West Virginia that live here. And I think that shows how patriotic our state is. But Mr. President, not only with our servicemen and women, we have many, many, many first responders in West Virginia. They answer the call to assist others that are in need of help, no matter what time it is, daytime, nighttime. But Mr. President, the purpose for this legislation is that when tragedy happens, and it does happen, the last thing that I believe that a family needs to worry about is finding a place within their community, if it is needed, to be able to hold their service for their loved one. And for people to be able to come together and show the respect and honor that man or woman deserves. I'm going to be honest with you, I never thought we'd have to introduce something like this. But Mr. President, I ask passage on this piece that we will not experience what I experienced in my district for a fallen soldier to be rejected to be able to use a facility, because in that community there was no place big enough to be able to allow people to come in and show the respect and honor to that fallen soldier. I urge passage. Thank you.
Further discussion. Further discussion. Not question before the Senate is shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, being 31 yeas, 0 nays, 3 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 157, authorizing Department of Administration promulgate legislative rules. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 157 is Rules Bundle Number 2, and it contains only 3 rules, but it's the Administration Rules Bundle, Department of Administration. There are 3 rules within it rolled into this committee sub. The one from the Purchasing Division, one regarding state-owned vehicles, and one regarding the leasing of space, acquisition of real property on behalf of spending units of the state. Mr. President, I'll be happy to try to answer any questions. Otherwise, I urge passage of the bill.
Is there further discussion? Further discussion? Not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, being 31 yeas, 0 nays, 3 absent and not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Junior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 157 be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective.
Junior Senator from the 17th moves that the bill be made effective from passage and requests unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective. Is there objection? Chair hears none. On this question, being 31 yeas, 0 nays, 3 absent and not voting, more than 2/3 of those elected having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective from passage. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 175, authorizing DHHR promulgate legislative rules. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The senator from Wayne, senior senator from the 5th, seeks recognition.
I would ask the chairman to yield.
Senator yield. Senator does yield.
Certainly.
What's the clicking thing I keep hearing around here?
I think that's the signal that my senior senator from the 15th gives me when he thinks I've been talking for too long.
Oh, I think he's a pretty smart guy, and what he's got good judgment. Thank you.
I did not hear the clicking noise, but I will. The senator from Morgan County is recognized to explain the bill.
I'm taking the hint. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 175 is Bundle Number 5. Rules Bundle Number 5 comes from DHHR. It has 9 rules in it. I will say these rules have been processed through the Legislative Rulemaking Review Committee, the Committee on Health, now the Committee on the Judiciary. The rules relate to, there's a rule regarding collection and exchange of data related to drug overdoses. There's a rule regarding behavioral health centers and licensure. There is in the bundle a rule regarding assisted living residences, a rule regarding food establishments, a DHHR rule regarding food manufacturing facilities, a rule regarding the newborn screening system, and a DHHR rule regarding medication-assisted treatment from the office-based medication-assisted treatment. There's a rule regarding chronic pain management and a rule regarding cooperative agreement approval compliance. Be happy to try to answer questions, Mr. President. Otherwise, I urge passage of the rules bundle.
Further discussion? Further discussion? Not. Question before the Senate is shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 31 yeas, 0 nays, 3 absent and not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting, having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 175 be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective.
Junior senator from the 17th moves that the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective. Is there objection? Chair hears none. On this question, there being 31 yeas, 0 nays, 3 absent not voting, more than 2/3 of those elected having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective from passage. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 267, requiring State Board of Education adopt policy detailing level of computer science instruction. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Jefferson County.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill requires the State Board adopt a policy detailing the appropriate level of computer science instruction that is required to be available to students at each programmatic level, and requires the Department of Education to develop and offer professional development opportunities to ensure educators are equipped with the requisite knowledge and skill to deliver computer science instruction. The bill also authorizes the department to partner with high-quality computer science professional learning providers in developing and offering the professional development opportunities. There is no fiscal note and there was no cost. I urge passage of this bill.
Is there further discussion? Further discussion? Not. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, being 31 yeas, 0 nays, 3 absent not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 387, relating generally to extradition. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 387 updates our extradition laws in this state. It actually repeals all the sections regarding extradition that are found in Chapter 5, or many of them, and it creates a new article in our state code in Chapter 62, and it's designated as Article 14A, and it contains new sections 1 through 7. Substantively, there are not many changes in the law from our current substantive extradition law. There are some updates in terminology, terms used, and there is one provision that is different. It provides a mechanism and authority in the new article for the extradition of someone who has been released from a correctional facility by mistake. And it doesn't happen very often, and we hope never to have it happen, but it on occasion does happen where a prison or a facility releases someone by mistake. I'm not talking about an escape or a jailbreak or a prison break, but under our current law, when someone is released by mistake, our extradition law is inadequate and insufficient. It doesn't provide a mechanism to have them extradited back to West Virginia. So this will correct that flaw. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions. Otherwise, I urge passage of the bill.
Is there further discussion? Further discussion? Not. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, being 31 yeas, 0 nays, 3 absent and not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 392, relating to payment of invoices received by Division of Corrections and Rehabilitation for contract work.
Junior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that Senate Bill 392 lay over one day while retaining its place on the calendar.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered.
Engrossed House Bill 2462, issuing a certificate to correctional employees to carry firearms. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House Bill 2462 amends a single section of the state code, and it's a section in Chapter 15A, Article 3, and it is Section 10. And we amended this yesterday. The members will remember we adopted the strike and insert amendment that had been recommended by the Senate Judiciary Committee for this section. Section 10 relates to the powers of law enforcement employees, including the authority to carry firearms within the Division of Corrections and Rehabilitation. And so if this bill is passed, it will clarify that the Commissioner may issue certificates authorizing correctional employees who have successfully completed the Division's training program for firearms certification to carry firearms in the course of their official duties. The training program has to be approved by the Commissioner and equivalent to the training program utilized by law enforcement agencies for deputy sheriffs in the handling and use of firearms. And be happy to try to answer questions, Mr. President. Otherwise, I urge the passage of this bill.
Is there further discussion? Not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question there being 31 yeas, 0 nays, 3 absent not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk has a title amendment.
Committee on the Judiciary moved to amend the title of the bill.
Question before the Senate is adoption of the title amendment. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the title amendment adopted. The clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House. Are there further bills on third reading?
No, sir.
Bills on second reading?
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 127 relating to parole officers' duties to perform alcohol and drug testing of litigants. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Not. The bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 163 authorizing DEP promulgate legislative rules. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Senate Bill 343 relating to review and approval of state property leases.
Junior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that Senate Bill 343 lie over one day while retaining its place on the calendar.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Further bills on second reading?
No, sir.
Bills on first reading. The Junior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that all bills on first reading be considered read a first time and advanced to second reading.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Introduction of guests. Remarks by members of the Senate. The Senator from Boone County.
Thank you, Mr. President. We were introducing a lot of our public health officials from our local health departments today, and just want to let you know that the morale is not good in those departments. You know, about 2 years ago, we're trying to find money to plug holes in a very tight budget, so we cut the public health departments in West Virginia by 25%, down to around $12.5 million for the entire state. They've had to lay off people. All the while, all these public health issues are rising to the top and really need a robust health system. Hepatitis C, hepatitis A. So we cut them pretty hard, and I think it's time, and it's not in the governor's budget, but I think it's time that we replace that 25% cut. Very important. I call on the finance chair. I know I know that's at least crossed his mind. I hope we can do that. Let me give you an example. Garrett County, Maryland gives more money for one county than we give for the entire public health departments in West Virginia. I've been there. It's a robust health department. I don't know that we could match it, but we certainly ought to do our effort to replace that 25% cut. Very important issue, and I certainly hope this body can do it. Thank you.
Remarks, the Senator from Cabell County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me follow up on the Senator's remarks. Last week, I held up the photograph of all these folks that counsel our rape victims and do such a great job in prevention of sexual assault in our state. and we all loved up on them and got our picture taken with them. But they're in the same boat as the health departments. You know, when times were really tight, they got hammered. This budget was cut, you know, 175%. Some bizarrely high number. And actually, I misspoke. It's cut 98% or something like that. Wanted to cut it that much. Anyway, the point is, we're going to restore, you know, we're going to give people pay raises. We're going to give our friends tax cuts. Why don't we, and I'll speak to the distinguished finance chair, please consider these valid programs for some refunding when we do have a little bit of money to work with. Thank you.
Remarks by members of the Senate. Senior Senator from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to follow up to Senator Cabell and the Senator from Boone on this. I, too, am in agreement of this, and I've got information on it this morning. They're asking for $2 million. We all ought to applaud ourselves for that matter on Senate Bill, I believe it was 28, where we put them into the pay raise so that no future legislature will have to do that. And by the way, thank you, Finance Committee, because that shot right through the committee on that standpoint. But we're very much so looking into that, being able to do it. I don't know where we're at financially right now because we got a lot of things that are out there. But that we recognize this as being an issue, and we're going to do our best to try to do something with this and be able to manage it. So I want everybody to have their concerns a little bit alleviated on that. But let me make it perfectly clear. I can't get them back to the $4 million. We know that we can't get that $4 million back in this year, but if we can get half of that in that ballpark, and that's what their request is, that's what we're going to attempt to do, okay? So thank you.
Further remarks, the Senator from Tucker County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. I just wanted to reemphasize, don't forget about the roads. You know, it's a big problem in this state. I know people probably getting tired of me harping about it, but it is a huge issue in our state, and I just ask that the governor and this body and the body across the hall don't forget about our road problems that we're experiencing here in the state, because it's about to turn spring, and when it turns spring, you know what spring brings is road complaints. So I just want to emphasize that, so keep it fresh in everybody's mind. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further remarks. The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to remind the body tomorrow is Go Red Day, and the American Heart for Women. American Heart Association requests that everyone in the chamber and the senators all wear red in support of the American Heart Association tomorrow.
Further remarks? Not miscellaneous business. The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pending announcements, I move the Senate stand adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Are there announcements? The senior senator from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Senate Finance Committee will meet this afternoon at 3 p.m. at room 451M, and tomorrow morning at 9:30, same room. Trying to make sure I've got it. Yeah, we got it.
Senator from Jefferson County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Education Committee will meet tomorrow at 2 p.m. in room 451M.
Senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two announcements. First, the Senate Judiciary Committee will meet today at 3 o'clock p.m. in the Judiciary Committee room in the West Wing. And the second announcement is that I've been alerted that we should all, at some point today, say happy birthday to our dedicated staffers, Casey Long and Richie Novak.
Senator from Marshall County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Health will meet tomorrow in 451M at 1 o'clock.
Senator from Preston County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development will meet today at 2 p.m. 208 West.
Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Economic Development will meet today at 1 p.m. in 208 West. The agenda has been posted. Also, the meeting for Natural Resources that was postponed from Monday will be tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. in 208 West. The agenda there has also been posted. Thank you.
The Senator from Wood County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Pensions will meet today at 2 p.m. in 451M.
Further announcements? Further announcements. The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that a leave of absence be granted to the senator from Monroe.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Further announcements. Not question before the Senate is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m.? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m.